in the past week, we had the tragic murder of Sir David Ames. And for anybody paying attention, they may know that that was not the only Islamist attack. But first, before we get into that, so since the attack, there has, of course, been the push from the Conservatives for repealing anonymity on social media.
You shouldn't be able to go online and post mean words with your name not attached to it. Presumably also where you live and your social security number attached, or
because this is completely connected to the Islamist terror attacks.
Yes, David Amis was killed by mean words.
Yes,
no, he was killed by knife.
And so even people on r/Labour on Reddit have been making fun of this. You can see this meme here: Labour MPs in 1920, by hand or by brain, the workers will seize the means of production, ban the landlords. Labour MPs in 2021, Lenin Balls 69 called me a prick. Oh dear.
Call the constabulary.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know how they don't see that in their own party with the hate speech laws, but whatever, I guess. Yeah. At least they're on the right side of history on this one.
I mean, you don't know how they don't see it at their own conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and then if you skip over, Preeti Patel has been putting this forward as well. She's considering removing the right to anonymity on social media. These YouGov polls that you can see, 78% of Brits think that everybody should have to disclose their identity when signing up.
Don't believe it. Just don't.
With 37% saying it should have to be displayed on the profile. What was it? I'm surprised it's not 72%. Was that the number?
It was 70. I think it was 71.
71%.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
But that was the one where just they keep coming out with polls immediately after the government's been like, hey, so this idea. They would just throw up a poll and be like, yeah, the public support it. 71%. Like,
exactly 71%. Right. I mean, even if that was the case, the YouGov, I think you've mentioned it before, is self-selecting.
But also the fact that there's immense suspicion over the fact that the ex-CEO of YouGov was the health minister and now is education minister within the party. And it's like, yeah, I bet he has all the phone numbers of all the people he used to work with deleted from his phone. I'm sure he's not texting them.
Yes.
So also to mention, just for the context, this was put up after Sarah Everard, and they brought it back to be like, hey, yes, support for this, I swear.
Yes.
I don't believe it.
The British people are definitely into this. And if we go over to the next one, we can see that the press has been typically classy about this, ignoring the actual matter of facts that it was, once again, an Islamist terror attack and going...
Ideological motive for the attack.
Yep. PM faces calls for David's Law to halt online abuse. For the love of God, do not name this after him.
Yeah, this seems incredibly out of touch and distasteful.
It's very crass.
Yeah.
I think, in a word. So that's what the press are doing, to stay classy, British media. And surprisingly enough, all of this has actually caused Sir Keir Starmer, of all people, to say something relatively sensible. Which, if you go over again, this is a quote from a tweet. Are we sure this is what he's actually said?
Yeah, she's been reliable.
Okay, that's all right then. Yep. Keir Starmer says, civility in politics matters, but we must not lose sight of the fact that David's killing was an act of terror on the streets of our country. Congratulations.
Again, how do you end up agreeing with the Labour leader? But
yes.
Yeah, he correctly identifies that, yes, the terrorism is the aspect of interest, not the mean tweets.
And it's a pretty obvious position to end up at, but apparently some people have been failing.
Yeah,
there.
Specifically the Conservative ministers.
But yes, moving on, as I said, sadly, in the past week, this was not the only terror attack that has resulted in deaths in Europe. A Danish man, as you can see from this article here, in Norway, went on a killing spree with a bow and arrow that resulted in 5 deaths. So looking at this BBC article here, 4 women and a man were killed and 2 others wounded when a man used a bow and arrow to attack them in Norway. Police first received word of an attack in the town of Kongsberg, southwest of the capital Oslo, at 6:12 p.m. local time. A Danish man, aged 37, which we've now confirmed to be a man called Espen Brathen, I assume that's how you pronounce it, has been arrested. Well, not that he deserves correct pronunciation either way.
No.
Has been arrested and questioned for hours overnight. Police said they had previously been in contact with him over fears of radicalization after he converted to Islam. So there's some parallels that you can draw here as well, sadly.
That's another Islamist attack just around the corner in Norway.
Self-radicalized.
By Danish national.
Yep. The attacker is said to have launched the assault inside a Co-op Extra supermarket on Kongsberg's west side. One of those injured was an off-duty police officer who was in the shop at the time. A spokesperson for the chain later confirmed a serious incident at their store, adding that none of their staff were physically injured. Local police chief Oyvind Az confirmed that the attacker had managed to escape an initial confrontation with police before an arrest was finally made at 6:47 local time, 35 minutes after the attack began. Doesn't sound great, the police response, and if you skip over, we've got a bit of an examination of the police action at the incident, which by all accounts seems to have been atrocious and made the situation worse. So
the dude's got a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got guns, right?
Presumably. I mean, that's what we were going to hear. So the initial reports, by the sound of it, was that the police arrived at the place where the perpetrator was observed and were clearly unarmed. It turns out that this is now wrong. They were armed but lacked protective equipment. It was the lack of protective equipment such as bulletproof vests, that led to the perpetrator initially escaping and managing to kill 5 people before the police caught up with him again. The police had to withdraw during the terrorist attack in Kongsberg, west of Oslo, because the officers were shot with arrows. I think that should say shot at with arrows, even though they were in possession of weapons that were both more powerful and more far-reaching than the arrows that came at them.
So presumably they've got shotguns, pistols, rifles, something.
Yes.
And
all of which fire faster and further than a bow and arrow.
Also, you can take cover. And
yes.
Then, you don't.
I'm not sure of the penetrative capabilities of an arrow, but I can imagine a bullet would do a better job.
So then they didn't fire on him. He then walked off, killed 5 people with his bow and arrow because they didn't just shoot him.
Yes. Excellent job.
I mean, that's just embarrassing.
It is. It's embarrassing, and it's drinks all round, lads. Yeah. So obviously, it's the officer's duty to protect citizens, and these officers failed. But there is one silver lining to it, which was that there was one officer on the scene doing their job. He wasn't on duty, but he did his job anyway. So an off-duty police officer has been hailed as a hero for saving people's lives during a deadly bow and arrow attack in Norway, despite still having an arrow stuck in his back after being shot. So this guy took an arrow, unarmed, and still tried to help people. I think his name, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, Rigoberto Villaroel, 48, told the Telegraph that he was in the supermarket with his family when Espen Brathen began his rampage on Wednesday evening in Kongsberg, a picturesque town near Oslo. I saw him with his bow in the store. He started shooting, and I immediately called my colleagues in the police and told others to run, he said on Friday in his first comments to the media shortly after being released from hospital. While I was on the phone, I turned away from him and he shot me in the back, he added. But rather than collapsing or trying to hide, he kept working in order to try and warn others. I stayed there at the entrance to the store until the other police officers arrived. I had my headphones on and saw this man come towards me. He said, this is a report from somebody who was also walking past the scene, saw this man walk towards me. He said for me to go home and stay inside, said Marcus Alexander Kutima, 23, who visibly shook and fought back tears as he recounted the experience. When I walked past him, I saw the arrow sticking out of his back. Those few meters from the place that we met to when I walked home were very, very long. I think he's a hero. He saved my life.
I mean, that's an absolute Chad of a man.
Absolutely. A hero.
Yep.
And a Chad, as said. And he was the only one seemingly in the police, even off duty, doing his job.
But I don't think you could ask for better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually fantastic.
Exactly. Putting himself at pretty lethal risk. He already had the arrow sticking out his back, so very impressive. Brathen, 37, continuing in this article, has confessed to the killings and is being detained in a medical institution rather than a jail. A judge ruled on Friday that he should remain in custody.
Sorry, they decided that Islamism's a mental disease now.
I mean, there's a strong argument you can make.
Norway, I don't know.
Yep, for at least he should remain in custody for at least 4 weeks while officials complete psychiatric evaluations. He's being held on 5 counts of preliminary murder and 3 counts of preliminary attempted murder. The preliminary charges are a step short of formal charges, and a terror-related charge could be brought if the evidence supports it. Police Inspector Mr. Omholt said that Brathen appeared to have been motivated by a range of factors, including anger, revenge, impulse, jihad, illness, and provocation.
It's just one of them.
Yeah,
It was,
just anger, revenge,
jihad.
a
He was
burning
upset,
hatred for Western culture.
wants to kill all the kuffars. Stubbed his toe as well. I don't know.
I heard one of the guys in the store looked at him funny. So
Yeah, I think there might be one in there that's more relevant.
yes.
God.
And here's another silver lining for you. Local police were on Friday considering whether to report themselves to the National Bureau of Investigation over an apparently slow response to the deadly incident. Apparently.
You literally had him.
You had him. You could have just shot him, just duck behind your car, pull out your gun, wait for an arrow to go by. It takes a second or two to reload a bow and arrow, shoot him. But no. So good. I think they should report themselves, personally.
For being jihadists, at least. But I mean, it's another example of this situation we have, especially in Europe, which is the Islamist movement, let's say, is
Yes.
one that has been pouring into Europe and has resulted in attack after attack after attack, especially in France, where, I mean, just this year, there's been like 2 policewomen who were just brutally murdered by people who turned up and just killed them. And you've got this, you've got David Amos. It's a conversation that has to be had, which is, well, let's talk about Islamism, let's talk about Islam, and what we can do about it. And instead, we have the Conservatives being like, yes, but so tweets.
Yes. And just to throw it out
Could
there,
not be more irresponsible.
before to head the complaints off at the pass, it's not anything to do with race because this man was Danish and was able to self-radicalize either way. So it does point in a very specific direction towards a particular ideology
Yes.
that pushes...
Such an easy argument to make.
Yes.
And yeah, the Conservatives are too busy just being like, yes, but Twitter.com has people on there, I don't know their names.
But what about Lenin's balls? He's a terror.
Oh, God.
Yep, and some more details about the attacker that are quite illuminating, shall we say. So we can see here through Sky News that Brathen is a Danish citizen who lived in Kongsberg nearly all his life. So reasonably, outside contact with these sorts of ideologies shouldn't be... You can't really see how he got it other than online and potentially through immigration and people like that. And the police have said that the suspect had been convicted several times in the past and confirmed that he had converted to Islam. He was given a 6-month restraining order against two family members last year, believed to be his parents, after refusing to leave their house and threatening to kill one of them. He was convicted of burglary and cannabis possession in 2012, and Regional Police Chief Ole Bredrup Savard said, "Officer, apologies.
No, it's Norse.
It's
Who's
Scandinavia.
gonna this, so?
It's all Viking talk." That police chief said officers had prior contact with him over concerns he was becoming radicalized. In December 2017, a concerned friend also flagged up videos that Brathen had put online, reported the Aftenposten newspaper. Looking into the camera, he's said to have confirmed that he was a Muslim and described himself as a messenger with a warning, adding that the time had come.
It sounds like a terrorist threat if you ever heard it.
Exactly. The friend said that Brathen was a ticking time bomb who changed in his late teens and became more and more of a loner who pushed people away. So with this guy, every potential red flag seems to have been there, clearly out in the open, reported numerous times. So they could have got him before he got into the position where he could kill people, and they didn't. And then he was in the position where he was literally moments away from killing people, and they still didn't do anything. Not until he had.
And it was down to the one guy off duty to save lives.
So God bless that man.
Yeah.
So remember, Conservatives in the UK, these attacks have never had anything to do with online anonymity whatsoever or
He
bullying.
didn't start shooting people with a bow and arrow because, I don't know, he was able to post tweets. No.
Exactly. And it wasn't because people were tweeting mean things at him either. This wasn't some kind of incel attack, as they try to claim these things to be sometimes. He was already known to security services, quite similar to, what was his name, Ali, who had been reported to prevent. We should also remember the name of, once again, Rigoberto Villarreal. I say that. Remember his name, however you pronounce it, because he was the real hero in this whole situation.
That was some real heroism right there.
Absolutely, putting himself in the line of duty and putting himself at risk, just like police officers should do.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.